From the Figure 4 Online Studios in beautiful Bothell, Washington, exclusively at WrestlingObserver.com, you're listening to the Bryan and Vinny Show with your hosts, Bryan Alvarez and Big Vinny V.
All right, now it's the Bryan and Vinny Show here, November 19, 2019, figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com. We got a Retro Raw and Nitro from 19 years ago this week to talk about today. Better shows than usual, I thought. Am I the only one?
One of them was.
I thought they were all right this
Raw
week.
was awesome. Nitro was terrible except for 2 minutes, but those 2 minutes made the whole show worth it.
And, yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. Anyway, let's talk about the important thing right here. Has real life screwed up my well-booked fantasy football league yet, or what?
Sadly, yes, it has.
You've got to be kidding me.
Yes, everyone in this league named Tom has failed me miserably.
So what happened, Vinny?
Well, the reigning champion, which I forgot until just now to look this up, was Tom lost the belt to Ryan Frederick.
Yeah.
Team name Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And we needed Ryan Frederick to lose to our pal Antonio the Promise Thomas. He stomped a mud hole in Antonio the Promise Thomas.
So Antonio fucked this up? Sorry. He screwed it up? Trying to be a professional.
Do you want to start the show over, Brian?
No, I don't.
Funny thing about your no cursing change that you never told us.
Right. Yeah, because you don't want to know why? Because I wanted to know if anybody would even notice.
I see.
Because people complain,
but
then when I don't, nobody even notices.
Brian, we know you in real life, though, so we hear your cuss all the time.
I'm talking about other people that only listen to this show.
I see.
Nobody, not one person, even Granny didn't notice. But anyway.
She's obviously given up on you.
So, Ryan Frederick now faces Joey Eastman in Week 12. And then...
So there's no hope. It's over.
Garrett Gonzalez in Week 13. Do you care about Garrett winning the belt?
I don't care who wins the belt, but, it's over. There's no way that in the end, Rob can get his belt back.
That is correct.
Brian, you should do what Medusa did.
Throw it in the goddamn garbage can.
Here.
And you're not out of the playoffs, are you?
No, no, I'm not out of the playoffs.
How many teams get in?
4.
That's a long shot.
Yeah, I think I'm tied for 5th right now.
So you're saying
there's still a chance.
There
I'll put that right there.
There is a
you want it?
Yeah.
There is a minute chance I could make the playoffs, and something could happen there. Yes.
I have possession of the belt.
Yeah, right now, it's an abeyance.
It is an abeyance.
Right now, there are
here.
There are 2 teams at 8-3, including the champion, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And then at 7-4, you have me, Semper Vivi, and I guess that's it. And then
so who does it look like is going to be in the playoffs?
Right now, Ryan Frederick.
Okay.
Paul Fontaine.
Oh, Paul Fontaine.
Yes. Me.
Yeah.
And Semper Vivi.
Okay, so...
If the playoffs started today, that's who would be in.
All right, so it's possible that even though Rob won't get his belt back, you could leave as the champion.
That's still on the table.
Okay, I won't throw the belt in the garbage yet.
Most importantly, I have my Week 13 grudge match. Paul Fontaine.
That's true. That's going
to be on the
You know
table
what? The since the title is in abeyance right now,
yeah,
it should just be on the line in that match. I should strip Ryan Frederick of the title because he's not in this room, and then put the belt on the line in that grudge match
as the F4W Fantasy Championship belt commissioner.
As the commissioner,
okay.
As Mr. Alvarez. I'll think about it. I don't want to strip Ryan yet. He's done nothing to deserve being stripped.
No, you're a horrible commissioner.
I mean, he fucked up my storyline here. I mean, that right there should be enough to be stripped. But maybe I'll make my own BMF title.
So, just to be clear, you're going to strip him for going into business for himself.
Yes.
He didn't follow the script.
Yes, he should have known better. He should have picked worse.
You wanted it to work, and he did a shoot.
Yes, he shot on us. Unacceptable. All right, anything else on this disaster?
No, but don't be surprised though. I pull out my sock full of coins and take my belt with me.
You gonna whack me with a sock full of coins?
If I have to.
Go ahead, Vinny.
I think I got some coins to
get going. Come on, a bunch of pennies. What do you do with a damn sock full of pennies?
Empty
Rob?
out my bank as well.
So anyway, WWF Monday Night Raw, November 20th of the year 2000.
I'd say you could challenge me for it in class, but you haven't been in class for 2 months.
Shots fired.
Get Rob's face. Yes, Rob.
Extenuating circumstances.
That's
my friend.
true. I'll give you that.
Okay.
I have also not been in class in like 5 years.
You don't have extenuating circumstances.
I just
and
don't-
actually, it's been about 10 years.
I just don't want to go.
Yeah.
So we get clips. This is the day after Survivor Series.
That's even worse. At least Rob wants to go.
Yeah. We have clips the day after Survivor, or excuse me, this show is the day after Survivor Series. We have clips of the show.
So that was okay.
Yeah. So the Radicals are brawling with Steve Austin backstage. Hunter is hanging out in the periphery. He disappears into the parking lot. He gets into a car. He's going to run Steve Austin over again. But Austin escapes somehow like the ghost in Scooby-Doo. Benoit can't find him. Hunter can't find him. Suddenly there's a forklift there. The forklift picks up the car with Hunter in it, raises it high into the air, and drops it down to the earth. And that is how the pay-per-view ended.
Yeah, that's the finish.
I had forgotten this until this clip aired. Do you remember where we were watching the show?
Craig's?
Tim had booked a show.
Was this in the Flying Saucer?
The Flying Saucer movie theater
Really?
in Canada, yes. where
Wow.
We did a show in the lobby. I had a horrible match with Big Sed.
That's the show where I hurt my knee taking snake eyes.
Perfect.
Of all the moves.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So
It's in that theater.
then we went to the theater. We watched The Undertaker wrestle, and I believe The Godfather's pants. And the show ended with Austin apparently killing Triple H.
Do you realize that I believe since he won the King of the Ring, which would have been 1997, I believe, Triple H, he has done 0 jobs on pay-per-view.
Amazing.
Except to The Rock. He didn't even do a job to Stone Cold Steve Austin after being revealed as the man who orchestrated Steve Austin being run over and out for a year. He still didn't do a job. He just had his car fall out of the sky. And I believe he's back next week.
I believe you're correct.
He's a brilliant man, isn't he?
It's beyond brilliance, honestly. It's a level of I guess manipulation is the right word.
Well, I can't call him brilliant because this train is careening off a cliff. And I hate to jump to the chase here, but I'll tell you now, and you can see it as we review this show, they are making 0 new stars.
Oh, yeah.
None.
Yeah.
This is 1998 WCW. The old guys, so to speak, are just beating everybody. Undertaker beats like 50 guys.
Yes.
Stone Cold Steve Austin beats a guy.
Yeah.
Triple H is just like he's above everybody. He doesn't do jobs for anybody. The only guy that does jobs is The Rock. And he's about to go make movies.
Yes. So as the music's playing, they're panning the crowd, there's lights flashing everywhere. Jerry Lawler asks, did Triple H survive Survivor Series? The tease is still, he might be dead. So out comes his wife, Stephanie. And she's in a different mood this week. She's shy, a little unsure, trying to play off like she's... I guess she's supposed to be sad, but she's a horrible actress, so I couldn't quite tell. They say she has been gone for weeks. Is that true?
Might be.
I could have sworn she was with Kurt Angle.
It feels like she's still on
Remember,
every show.
she got sick that one week, but she was there. And then the next week, she was like there and not sick. I don't think she'd been gone at all.
I don't think so either. So she says it's a miracle Hunter's alive. Now, 2 minutes ago, Jerry Lawler was asking, was Hunter dead? Steph says, he did not suffer one broken bone.
Yeah.
It's like he's Superman.
Severe contusions, deep lacerations, and of course, mental trauma. She's like trying to choke up, like she can't get the words out, and finally announces, he will be in medical care for the next few days.
Yeah.
He may even miss Thanksgiving.
Like he had the flu.
no. I think the idea
They
was
killed
that
cars.
there was minor concern that her being so sad. The only thing I can figure is they thought that maybe there would be sympathy for her. So she comes out here and she talks for an hour.
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
whining on and on and on. Finally, she wants Steve Austin to come out. She wants to publicly apologize. Hunter wants her to apologize to Steve Austin.
Yes. Now, before we do get there, I do want to say one of the things she talked about in her hour was that the reason she has been off TV is because she and Hunter are trying to have a baby.
That's right.
Okay, that would be fine, except Hunter has been all over these shows for sure. Which I'm pretty sure, I don't have kids, but as I understand it, the process requires the two people to be at least in the same room.
That is odd.
Let me check the math.
Yeah. So, anyway.
By Joe, you're right.
She calls Austin out. Austin comes out. He is also sorry. He's sorry Hunter's not dead. He does not accept Hunter's apology. He calls Stephanie's not yet conceived baby ugly.
Not only that, he says, I'll go to the hospital when that child is born to offer my condolences. Here's the thing about this segment, okay? Steve Austin absolutely just destroys Stephanie McMahon. He brings her to tears.
This would be quite a sight if you were not around for this era and you're used to the Stephanie of 2019.
Oh, you think Steve Austin's a total heel?
She's crying. She's wailing. He's burying her unborn child.
Unconceived child.
Unconceived, unborn child. So
still just a gleam in Hunter's eye.
he eviscerates her to such a degree that even Jim Ross feels that Steve Austin has stepped over the line. Now, on one hand, this was a little bit uncomfortable, Steve Austin's behavior here. But on the other hand, the story is her husband tried to pay somebody off to kill Steve Austin.
Right.
And we're told that Steve Austin has gone a little over the line by yelling at her until she cries.
It's all very absurd.
So she runs off weeping. The fans are just going absolutely crazy for Steve Austin. The more he buries her, the more they cheer.
He was amazing.
And he finally just sends her running. And the first guy we see after this is Chris Benoit.
Right.
That went from mildly uncomfortable to even more uncomfortable.
So Benoit says Austin can drive a forklift or use a stunner, but he's not very good at wrestling. Benoit's not impressed. He wants a match with no monster trucks, no chef hats, no forklifts, just wrestling.
I want to know how you'd fare in a pro wrestling match.
Yes.
You know, the business we're involved in.
Yes.
It's like, it is?
It's hard to tell sometimes.
That's news to me.
Austin says Benoit may be the top technical wrestler, but he is the top beer drinker, and he accepts the challenge.
Well, it's funny because the stunner is not a wrestling move. That's a wrestling move. The stunner?
Benoit's logic here was not the best.
Yeah. And then at the end of the show, Jim Ross makes sure to point out after Austin wins with the stunner,
Spoiler,
that he won with a wrestling move.
Yeah.
He was getting his comeuppance.
That's true. A weepy Stephanie McMahon leaves the building, only she is such a horrible actress, I was certain this was a ruse, and she'd be back in an hour.
It is a ruse, I'm sure. She'll be back next week with Hunter.
Yeah, I suppose so. All right. This segment, it's Bull Buchanan and the Good Father versus the Dudleys. Fine. Except there are stipulations. Mm-hmm. Right to Censor is putting their tag team championship belts on the line. Okay? A championship match.
Sure.
Top and Raw, that's fine. At stake for the Dudleys, the tables.
Totally at random with no build on Monday.
If they lose
Unless I miss something.
If they lose this match, they will no longer be allowed to use tables in their matches.
Even though they're not allowed to use tables in their matches.
Thank you. So what was at stake here? The ability to continue to be disqualified for using tables?
Yes. My bigger issue, Vinny, is why would you build up this stipulation out of nowhere, randomly in the opener on this show,
Yes.
if you're just going to go to a disqualification and nothing comes of it?
There's that too. That's an excellent question as well. Bull Buchanan does a fun little Southern Baptist promo about the gratuitous violence of these tables.
Yeah, they let Bull Buchanan talk.
I liked it. They're doing this match. What the hell was this? I'm watching the Good Father do arm wringers.
Yeah. Dude, it only went like 2 minutes. Isn't
2
that
horrible
bad?
minutes.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of that on this show.
So, it sucks. The Dudleys hit 3D, but Devon has to work so hard to get in a pinning position where he can be yanked outside. Takes him like a minute to get set up, and then Steven grabs his leg and pulls him outside, and it's a disqualification. It was time for a walk.
Already?
It was a short walk. I walked like to the bathroom and back.
Wow.
Okay.
But
You are so lucky you're not watching Raw and SmackDown.
yeah. This
Seriously, if you were watching Raw and SmackDown this week, you'd be done. There is no way you would survive this week's Raw and
Sure, you're
SmackDown.
true.
Yeah, remember the walk that Forrest Gump went on?
Or I just kept going?
Yeah, that'd be you.
I got to find out what set you off for that famous walk that you took, because I guarantee it was not as bad as this past week's Raw and SmackDown.
I recall it was a particularly horrible Diva segment.
Oh,
Some.
I'd have to go back,
It was the
but-
logic of what was being presented, not the performance.
then there's no way you'd survive this week.
I'm sure that's true.
There's
So-
no way you'd survive the Natalya submission over Asuka, leading to Natalya not getting a championship match and being replaced by someone else who got the championship match, them losing to set up another championship match.
Excellent.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Even Rob's baffled.
So after this, and an abortion of a match, and Richards goes through a table. Yay.
Actually, I liked it afterwards because Stevie is just your classic idiot heel.
Yes.
He's so happy that they didn't lose their belts that he grabs both belts, holds him over his head with his back turned to the ring, close enough that Devon can reach over the ropes and grab him by his tie and yank him up to give him the Bubba Bomb.
The place went absolutely crazy for the post-match with the table thing, but they couldn't have just done a promo. They had to do these stupid steps in this awful match first.
Yes.
This sucked.
Steven was pretty awesome when he got powerbombed. He laid back with his feet over his head in a completely uncomfortable position.
Jackknife position, yeah.
Yeah, for a couple minutes.
No, yeah. He's a pro.
It was awesome.
He's a pro. Michael Cole interviews Chris Jericho. It's kind of a weird promo. He thanks Kane for teaching him how to go through windows and tables. And says he has taught Kane things as well, like what it's like to be beaten with garage doors and 2x4s and steel pipes. He's got this whole thing. He's not looking at the camera. He's not looking at Cole. He's looking down and just into space.
He's thinking.
I guess so. He says, I'm not stable enough for a singles match, so he has to tag.
He's not?
That's what he said.
Is that a storyline that we haven't been filled in on? Chris Jericho is not allowed to do singles matches because he's too crazy?
Apparently.
So he must tag with someone?
That's what they said.
What?
Don't get mad at me.
I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at this show. I like this show. Now that I watch it again or I recap it, I realize how stupid it is.
Our standards have been lowered. So, yeah, he says this lesson for Kane will never end. So far, this show has sucked. And when we get the Survivor Series recap brought to you by No Mercy, the greatest wrestling video game of all time.
Here, here.
I was ready to shut this down and break out the N64. I don't have an N64. I had to go buy one. But regardless, great game. So at Survivor Series, Rikishi laid out The Rock, did a bunch of bonsai drops. I don't think they even mentioned the finish or who won, but Rikishi left him laying. TNA are still in the APA office. They just say they want a bunch of women dancing in there. William Regal comes in. He has a bunch of jokes about wanting Trish's services and whatever, and he says he wants their help in a match against Hardcore. He has a hardcore match against Hardcore Holly. He wants their help in the match, and they agree. And he mentions that Trish is quite comely, and they misinterpret this, and they think it's an insult.
Yes.
They're aghast.
Yes.
I thought they'd be like, she sure is. Ha ha. So they're like, comely? What?
Meanwhile, Hardcore Holly's been watching this on the monitor. When Crash offers his help, Hardcore calls him a dumb bastard.
You know, I hate to jump ahead, but Regal and Hardcore do a hardcore match.
Yes, they do.
Do they ever?
And at the end of the match, I realized it's for the European title.
It was?
Yeah.
I didn't-
It's for Regal's title, the European title.
I didn't realize that
Why
until right
are they
now.
having a hardcore match for the European title?
Well, I don't know, Brian. That makes no sense. Which may be why I didn't figure it out. Kelly interviews The Rock.
I only figured it out because I was like, Regal is the hardcore champion? And I realized, no, he's the European champion. What?
I don't have an answer for you.
No one ever has an answer for me.
Well,
On every show where I ask these questions, nobody ever has an answer.
sorry to disappoint you again.
God.
I failed you. Kelly interviews The Rock. Rock notes that Rikishi has been left him laying over and over again. He vows tonight he will hit the rock bottom. He will leave Rikishi laying. Then he makes jokes about hermaphrodites and Japanese accents. We cut to the crowd where then XFL quarterback, current Purdue Boilermakers head coach Jeff Brom is in the crowd. We get clips from Survivor Series of Undertaker in those pants. Now, before we get to this finish, we're like 40 minutes into the show, This is the first time they mentioned, oh, by the way, there was a World Heavyweight Championship match on this pay-per-view as well. We've talked about the important stuff, which is Hunter being dropped in his car and Rikishi laying out the Rock. A side detail, a footnote, the results of this World Heavyweight Championship title match. So the gimmick was, Kurt was hiding under the ring. Taker pulled Kurt out of the ring, powerbombed him, went for a pin, but it was not Kurt. It was Kurt Angle's brother, Eric. Everyone was very confused.
Rob's laughing uproariously. What's so funny, Rob?
I absolutely remember when that happened.
Yes.
Yes.
It's Eric Angle.
And then Kurt...
What a
appeared from under
follow-up
the
career
ring.
he's had.
Oh, we'll get to Eric Angle, believe you me. Kurt, schoolboys Taker and pins him. There's your finish.
May I talk about Cole with Earl Hebner?
Please do.
Dude. Cole's interviewing him. He's asking, why didn't you count when The Undertaker was covering Kurt's brother?
Yeah.
And Hebner says, I couldn't count because Kurt wasn't in the ring. Then he says, and I quote, it's really that simple. Why don't you understand? And he walks away.
Yeah.
19 years ago. These assholes are asking stupid fucking questions. Nothing has changed in 19 years.
So we get William Regal versus Hardcore Holly, any hardcore match that is apparently for the European title. All I know is I would rather be in a UFC fight than have been in this match with these men.
They beat the hell out of each other.
The weapon shots were the easy stuff. They're just drilling each other over and over again. They're brawling backstage, down the hallway. We see Steve Blackman watching on a monitor. Eventually, TNA attack. These two giant 300-pounders beat the crap out of Hardcore, set him up so Regal can break a 2x4 over his head and pin him. And as soon as the ref counts 3, the cavalry arrives. It's Crash and Blackman in the nick of time after their friend's been pinned. There's a big brawl going on. The garage door goes up. TNA steals a golf cart and flees. And again, golf cart's not known for their speed. Weighted down here with this giant tag team. I'm pretty sure if Crash had wanted to keep up on foot, he could have.
I'm pretty sure Undertaker could have kept up on foot.
And in the midst of all this, Steve Blackman's music plays.
What the hell's Blackman doing out there?
It's hardcore, Brian.
No.
This was 3 minutes of them hitting each other really hard,
Really hard.
and I really enjoyed it.
Dude, you know what we got next?
Lowdown.
We got the beginning of Geeks.
You're not wrong.
Well, it's been beginning for a while, but it's
Ooh, who else has been portrayed as...
Lowdown. Last week they had their
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, this is the beginning of there are wrestlers in this company who are just geeks.
This is the escalation.
Yes. Like, prior to this, you know,
Everyone-
I mean, there were geeks, but, like, they tried to pretend they were important.
Yes.
Skinner, etc.
Sure.
The gimmick here is Lowdown and Tiger Ali Singh. They show up. They're not on the list. They explain, hey, we're wrestlers. They're not allowed in the building. They are turned away.
Right. Chris Jericho and The Rock versus Kane and Rikishi. I don't want to shock you. They did a good tag team match.
Yeah.
Rock is selling his injuries. Jerry Lawler says he's heard rumors. Rock may have had some kind of shot or injection to wrestle on this night. Rock gets the hot tag. My speakers began to smoke. The reaction he got from these people.
The build up to the hot tag, you could see the people. They knew it was coming, and you could see them in unison rise
Yeah.
in the crowd.
Yes.
And it just kept building and building and building. And when he finally hit the hot tag, the place exploded.
Just
was
ballistic.
beautiful.
It was beautiful and ballistic. So, huge giant four-way breaks out. Everyone hits big moves. And then Jericho just grabs a chair and hits Kane in the head with it behind the ref's back. Rock hits a rock bottom and pins Kane. Huh. All right. Beating continues. Jericho and Rock go to put their guys in double submissions. And let me tell you, Kane looked really, really good in this match, but when Jericho had to put him in the Boston Crab, This is the most difficult part of the entire night for Jericho. That was a war.
Well, Kane doesn't really bend.
That's my point. Yeah.
Here's what I got out of this. As you noted, there was a hot tag, and the place just went absolutely crazy. No matter what else is happening on a wrestling show, if you have one rock, the whole company is lifted. So, the good news is, you only need one rock. They were lucky. They had The Rock and Steve Austin. That's why they were as big as they were. But you only need one. That's the good news. The bad news is, once that guy's gone, you're in deep trouble. And that's exactly where this company is heading. He's about to go to the movies, and Steve Austin is going to retire, and we are in the doldrums ever since. The closest we got was John Cena, and he was not Steve Austin, and he was not The Rock. And now, since the Roman Reigns thing was such a failure, they ain't even trying anymore.
That's the real problem.
They aren't trying to get anybody over today. Who is the top face of the company? Seth Rollins? This geek? Yes, that's the answer, Vinny. That's the face of the company right now.
I don't have a better
Seth
answer. Yeah.
Rollins. They're not even trying anymore. So I just watched this and I thought, man, one guy. It's all you need is one guy. They haven't had one guy since like 2002.
So on top of all this, Jericho then decides to do a cabrada on Kane, drives his knees right into Kane's chest. That looked very painful. And rock bottom.
But Kane's indestructible.
Apparently. He's still around. The Angle brothers arrive, and then it's time for the Angle brothers promo. So Eric Angle did not have the career his brother Kurt did. He was in Ohio Valley for a while.
Or the charisma.
He didn't have a lot that Kurt had, actually, but he was in Ohio Valley for a while when Brian and I were watching Ohio Valley every week. And I remember, I always thought he would have been a lot better off if his ring name was Kurt Angle's brother Eric. No? All right. Regardless, have either of you looked into what Eric Angle's been up to this year?
We chokeslam the kid?
He chokeslammed a junior wrestler at a wrestling meet, which you're not allowed to do, especially to children.
To be fair,
Okay.
and I don't even know why I'm being fair.
Did you see the video?
He grabs the guy by the neck and lifts him and kind of, he doesn't choke slam him onto his back.
He choke lifts him.
He did pick him up by the neck.
Yeah, don't
You're
do
not
that.
allowed to do
No,
that.
that is a crime.
But it was not like, when I heard about it, I thought, oh my God, like, I thought of Kane.
Yes.
No. He grabbed the kid by the neck and he lifted him and kind of threw him a little bit.
And put him down on his feet.
This is
basically.
still very bad, don't get me wrong.
It's an assault.
But calling it a choke slam,
Yes,
that's a little bit...
Now, he's had news since then. He's been busy. Because just last month, he was indicted for steroid distribution.
I thought this had happened before that.
Maybe I read it wrong.
Well, this might have been a second one. I'm
The
not
article,
sure.
yeah, the article I read was October 2019, I thought, but I may have misread that. So anyway, yeah, that's what Eric Angle's been up to in the 2 decades since. So, thankfully, Kurt does the talking, because as Craig noted, the 3 or 4 words we got from Eric here were way too many.
Dude, he was David Flair.
David's way better.
Well, I mean, he is now, but like when David
On
Flair,
the Nitro we're watching
when
on the
David
show.
Flair first started, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about.
That may be true. So, Kurt says, the Survivor Series screw job has been an annual tradition, but not this year. This year, finally, the good guy won. He explains that his big brother, Eric, was just under the ring to surprise him.
Yeah.
And they were going to celebrate together when that jerk, The Undertaker, pulled him out for no reason and gave him a last ride powerbomb. So The Undertaker comes out, destroys them both, and chokeslams Kurt off the stage.
What a geek Kurt turned out to be. That's your WWE champion.
Kurt's a massive geek.
So then, correct me if I'm wrong. Undertaker meets with Mick Foley, and he says, Foley, you owe me a favor for throwing you off the Hell in a Cell.
Mm-hmm.
Foley says, you almost killed me.
Mm-hmm.
Undertaker says, yes, I also made you famous. Foley goes, ha-ha! What do you want? Am I mistaken, or did The Undertaker say, I want the Angle brothers in a handicap match tonight?
See, that's what I heard as well.
That is exactly what he said.
Okay. And Foley said, I'll think about it. And Taker goes, you damn sure better think about it. Right?
Essentially, yeah.
Okay. Just making sure that I wasn't imagining things.
Before this, they replayed Undertaker flattening the Angles, and including Kurt being backboarded and neck braced and stretchered out.
Yes.
So as soon as he requested this match, I knew it was not going to happen.
Right.
And Foley points out, Kurt just got stretchered out. And then Taker gave him his warning, you better make this match happen or I'll make you famous again, or whatever he said. And Foley promised to take it under advisement. That's where this was left hanging.
I see.
Road Dogg and K-Quick and Billy Gunn versus Eddie Guerrero and Saturn and Dean Malenko. So, on one of these AEW episodes, AEW Dynamite, I noted that Pentagon had a one-arm press slam of Marco's stunt.
Yeah.
And how impressive that was, even for a man Marco's size. Billy Gunn did a one-arm press slam of Eddie Guerrero.
Yes.
And it was not the biggest Eddie Guerrero I ever saw, but it's a full-grown man right there. And Billy is strong.
This went like 2 minutes. Yeah. A bunch of stuff happened. Terry is in the ring being thrown around.
Yes.
It's not a DQ. And then Truth hits a 450, which Jerry Lawler called a triple gainer, despite not being triple or a gainer.
Ross called it a 720.
Yes.
And got the win.
They were not used to these moves.
At one point, the ref almost tripped on Terry and didn't notice her.
I don't know what to tell you. That all happened. So Edge and Christian go to meet with Foley. I wrote Kurt, but that's wrong. They meet with Foley. So they say they overstepped their bounds when they interfered in the Undertaker's match. I guess they were also interfering in Survivor Series. I don't know when this would happen.
Did you miss Foley's prick joke?
I didn't write it down. Craig, you wanted...
Oh, I just told you.
He's got a cactus, you see. And his fingers touch the cactus in two places, and he says, 2 pricks.
Yeah.
And then Edge and Christian walks up and he says, oh, I was just thinking about you.
Yes.
It's like he did with
Patterson, I think.
Patterson, yeah.
Yes. So, yes, they apologize. They say they overstepped their bounds when they interfered in the Undertaker's match. He's been here 10 years. Nobody has heard from Kamala since the Undertaker put him in the casket.
Well,
can you believe
In the year 2000...
how weird our life is?
Think about this. In the year 2000, Edge and Christian were listening to the Bryan and Vinny show from 2019.
Yes.
When we were talking about superstars in 1992.
Yes.
Which is well played on their part. Remarkable taste. So, they want to apologize to The Undertaker. He has earned their respect, and they have a big, shiny gold urn. Mm-hmm. And they want Foley to deliver this gift. Foley instead books them in a handicap match against The Undertaker. This, of course, makes them unhappy. They storm off. And then the kicker to this whole deal, Foley is satisfied. He's gotten revenge on these two jerks for interfering. He thinks this is going to make The Undertaker happy. Then he just thinks. He leans back. He mutters softly, didn't Kamala work for Baba 2 years later?
Yes.
I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed. That was so awesome. That was an inside joke that you do not hear on Raw in 2000.
No, of course not.
If Mauro Ranallo made a joke like this in NXT, it would just be a thing.
Yes.
Mick Foley dropping this bit of inside baseball in the year 2000 was so awesome. Ivory versus Molly Holly.
Okay. Allow me. First off, Ivory is now wearing pants.
good.
Yes.
It took you this long to figure this out?
And wrestling boots, by the way.
God damn, we've been talking about this for weeks now. It took him 4 weeks to put her in pants, as she wrestles every week in a dress and can't even move, putting both herself and her opponent in danger.
Agreed.
Molly Holly did not have a name last week. This week, she's fighting for the championship.
I suppose that's true.
That is true.
I hadn't thought of that.
So the match goes a minute. Trish runs down, DDT's Molly, and Ivory gets the pin.
Yes.
But the other thing I got out of this was, for those of you who are young, you weren't around in the 2000s, let me tell you how standards and tastes have changed in America in the last 19 years. In the early 2000s, the year 2002, Molly Holly's gimmick was that she had a big ass. What?
Mm-hmm.
What?
It wasn't that big.
No shit.
Yeah.
Well, that happened.
If she were around today, she'd be the most over woman on the roster. Back then, they made fun of her because her ass was too big.
Now they make fun of her for being too small. Undertaker finds the urn. Just like sitting out there. Foley didn't give it to him. And there is a note. I also laughed at the Undertaker in the Undertaker voice, reading Edge and Christian's note. For a decade of awesomeness, you totally rule. And he tossed the urn in the garbage.
Even though the ship's going downhill, there's still like gems.
It's an entertaining.
There are zero
wreck.
gems
No.
in 2019. None.
Well, we get the Undertaker versus Edge and Christian.
This was not a gem.
No.
Match goes 2 minutes. Undertaker beats the shit out of both guys. Press power bombs Christian. Kills Edge when he runs back in. Choke slams him. On this show, The Undertaker destroyed the WWE Champion, the WWE Champion's brother, Edge, his brother. A lot of brothers died for The Undertaker on this show.
They did.
And if you don't know why, it is because... Did they give the finish to the Undertaker match last night?
Survivor Series?
I don't think
Yes.
so.
Yeah, they
I'll tell you what the finish was.
talked about when Eric Angle was out. We talked about it.
But what was the finish?
That Kurt pinned him.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
the schoolboy.
Taker lost.
Eric
Yes.
came out. The Undertaker chokeslammed him thinking it was Kurt Angle.
This sounds very familiar.
No, you're right.
Kurt Angle sneaks in. He schoolboys him. And he pins him.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because the Undertaker had to do a screw job, schoolboy, bullshit pin to the champion,
In shiny pants.
he must run roughshod the next night and destroy 4 men.
3 top men.
It's a good point.
Why isn't he just the champion?
I don't know. I don't have that answer.
In their minds, by the way, Kurt Angle, because he's the champion and never beats anybody, in their minds, he needed a win. That's not a win. It's bullshit. This is the beginning of the reign of terror that led me to see Undertaker like everyone else saw X-Pac. Ultimate go-away heat. That's where we're heading right now with The Undertaker.
I think we're there, yeah.
This was a horrible period. Between him and Triple H, brutal.
The Radicals give Benoit a pep talk, say they have his back. I'm just going to read what I wrote here. Reminder that Steve Austin tried to kill Hunter last night, and Stephanie apologized, but left in tears. And then our main event, Chris Benoit versus Steve Austin. What a great goddamn wrestling match this was.
It was fantastic.
Oh my God in heaven. First of all, they had a story to it.
Yeah, before we get into the match, I just want to say one other thing here, because I think we're going to give up on this Retro Raw Nitro thing before we get to No Way Out 2001.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
So, Triple H orchestrated
Oh, yes, yeah.
Rikishi trying to run over and kill Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Correct.
They do a match at Survivor Series. Steve Austin cannot pin Triple H.
No.
A car falls from the roof. Whatever. Do you guys remember?
Kinda.
Do you guys remember No Way Out 2001?
No.
Steve Austin and Hunter have a 2 out of 3 falls match.
Yes. Steve Austin is on his way.
He's already won the Royal Rumble.
He is on his way to facing The Rock for the world title at WrestleMania.
To main event, the biggest show they had done to that point.
Yes. He faces Triple H, who orchestrated to have him killed in a 2 out of 3 falls grudge match. And Hunter beats Steve Austin 2-1.
Huh. It's amazing.
He sure did.
Now let's talk about this match. It was fucking great.
Unbelievable.
Best thing I saw all week.
So Austin, to prove Benoit wrong, did in fact out-wrestle him for several minutes.
Yes.
And he's doing arm drags and drop toe holds and hammer locks and takedowns, and he's wrestling. But at no point was he ever just lying there. This is not a Brad Armstrong Saturday Night match. He's doing stuff the entire time and keeping the crowd involved. It's fantastic. And finally, Benoit's the one who has to resort to punching and kicking to take over. And it turns into a ungodly great WWE-style brawling main event match. This is like a pay-per-view main event here just on a random Raw.
Absolutely.
And then the finish, they're trading punches. If this was 2019, it would be the boo yay spot, but the place is just going crazy for both guys. And in the middle of it, Austin ducks a punch, turns around, boots up Benoit, stuns him, and pins him. Great. That's just great. That is just great. So, like I say, this is a good pay-per-view main event match on a random episode of Raw. I have to go back and check, but this was for sure one of the best Monday night matches in all of 2000. May well have been the best Monday night match in all of 2000. Nothing's coming to mind. There's a lot of great Raw matches in this time. Fantastic. Absolutely fabulous. This may be the best match I see all week.
Yeah, go out of your way to see this. It's
Yes.
really good.
So the takeaway I got out of this was Stone Cold Steve Austin is the biggest star in all of wrestling at this point. He's just coming off taking a year off due to a neck injury. This guy could have given it 25% and still been by far the biggest star in wrestling.
Yeah.
Instead, this dude goes out there and he busts his ass.
Yep.
He worked so hard. He's taken German suplexes
Yes.
on his neck
Yes.
from Chris Benoit.
Well, kind of.
I was like, dude, that's why this guy was so great. He could have coasted, but he didn't. He worked as hard as he worked when he was stunning Steve.
Absolutely.
In WCW getting buried. Worked his ass off here as the biggest star in wrestling. But you know what? Didn't take one chop.
That's true.
Not.
Did not take one chop.
We'll see. If
I couldn't help but notice.
I don't know if it will last that long, but Austin and Benoit have much more famous matches
Yes.
the next year. And Austin's a heel by that point. So maybe he took them then.
I'm pretty sure eventually he takes the chops, if I recall correctly. Alrighty. You ready, Vinny?
Sure.
All right, well, here we go.
The finishes on this show were stupid-ass DQ in a wretched tag team match that accomplished nothing but wasting time in my life. Pin after interference in a hardcore match. Pin after a chair shot in a tag match. Pin after interference fails. Pin after interference succeeds. Clean pin when one man beats two. And clean pin in one of the best Raw matches in the year 2000.
Boom, there you go. Watch that match, everybody. It's great. You don't have to worry about outside interference.
No.
You don't have to worry about any kind of bullshit.
No.
They do a great wrestling match, and one man defeats the other.
They had a very simple story to tell. They had a finish planned. Everything else is called in the ring.
And the fans are going nuts.
Fans going nuts the whole time.
Everything that you would want to love about pro wrestling is in that match.
8.5 minutes, which perfect time to build a great match. And the fans were in it. Benoit can't cut the best promos, but man, he can go in the ring.
That is true. WCW Monday Nitro, also November 20th of the year 2000. So we got a recap package. And I don't know if it's the network's fault or WCW's fault, but there's piped in music that's totally drowning out all audio.
Yes.
So I have zero idea what's going on.
Really, really bad.
And then the commentary comes in really super loud. Eventually, I'm able to tell there was a show in Germany. I'm not sure if it was Thunder or not, but it was definitely in Germany, where the Boogie Knights were challenging for the World Tag Team titles, and somebody had a brilliant plan, which is, we have one German guy. It's Alex Wright. We'll put him in a tag match for the tag titles. We'll have his partner get hurt, so he has to go it alone. He'll beat the Natural Born Thrillers by himself. He'll raise those tag belts high, and the place will go crazy. That's what happened,
Yeah.
and it worked.
They claim Disco has been severely injured.
Wait a second. The hometown boy
Yes.
won in his hometown?
Yes.
And the crowd popped?
And they were very happy,
That's crazy.
and probably decided, hey, let's get tickets for the next show.
This will never work.
Yes.
I hope they waited to buy their tickets.
That's true.
Lex Luger wants a match from Mike Sanders. We're not
Dude,
told here what it is.
Did you do a count of how many Sanders segments were on this show?
Not that, but I did note that he is on this show more than like Triple H is on Raw.
I
Or,
think that he was in every segment.
Yeah, and some were better than others, but his bad segments are bad. So, okay, why don't we start it right now? Mike Sanders won. I'll start it.
All right, I'll talk about this. You start the file here.
Mike Sanders
All right, we know what the name of the file is.
appearances.
So Palumbo rushes in.
One.
says O'Hara's been laid out. O'Hara was supposed to get a tag title shot. So because O'Hara's been beaten up, they look at him, and they're like, well, fuck it. Now it'll be the perfect event tonight. That's literally what they did.
Now, it's actually more than that, because they find O'Hara laid out. Sanders says, you got to be ribbing me. Then he runs back to his desk to cut a promo where now the camera's facing on him directly.
Yes.
I am counting this as a second Sanders appearance.
No. We don't need that, Vinny. All right. So he goes back in and he announces that Palumbo and Stasiak are getting the shot. Then, correct me if I'm wrong, I could have sworn he said they will face Alex Wright and a partner of my choosing.
That's what he said.
Did he not say that?
That's exactly what he said.
Okay, so then, like, the very next segment is Alex Wright going to find a partner of his choosing? They couldn't even keep that straight.
Well, technically, he goes to Chronic.
But he's looking around for a partner.
I was looking to buy their help. He says he's on the phone with Disco, and he says he doesn't know who his partner is. He doesn't say, be my partner,
I
Chronic.
see.
He says, help me.
He wants protection.
Because he's back on
All
this
right.
show. He's no longer a hero.
I apologize.
Again, Brian, there's enough to make fun of.
I
here.
apologize.
The stuff they get.
I apologize. How many times do I have to say it here?
One more.
I'm sorry. And then
All
he
right.
signs Booker versus Luger for the main event.
This is the match obviously Luger wanted, which we didn't know about at first. Jamie Noble versus Yang. Madden has a shocking revelation that Jamie Noble is a white guy.
And he's pretty fly.
You know, I talk about this all the time. I don't want to be a broken record, but Jamie Noble was so awesome here.
Yep.
He was 23 years old, and he had been in the business for 4 years. Find me one 23-year-old who has been in the business for 4 years, trained in the WWE Performance Center. I'm not talking Tyler Bate. I'm talking trained from scratch at the Performance Center. Find me one guy 4 years in at 23 that's a quarter as good as Jamie Noble was here. Sounds to me like somebody's doing something wrong.
So Leia Meow, who I had zero memory of her doing anything physical other than dancing, did a diving Rana off the apron at one point. So all the other leftover shards of 3 Count and the Young Dragons are all out doing stuff. I can no longer keep track of who's on whose team or who's feuding with who.
That's fair.
They're all out there doing stuff. I didn't write down the finish, but I believe Jamie Noble won.
Jamie Noble won with a sunset flip after a flip dive to the outside, and then 2 Count attacked him. Evan Courageous helped clear the ring. Mm-hmm. I like this. This was great.
This was very good.
Lex Luger has a meeting with Ric Flair. He comes out, looks into the camera, and he's very happy.
Do you know Noble's only 42 right now?
Well, I could have. You said he was 23, and it's 19 years later.
42 years old.
Here's Steiner apparently losing to Sting on Thunder, but then putting him in a straitjacket and beating him with a pipe. All right.
So I was initially angry because Sting beats Steiner, and then Steiner beats him and breaks every bone in his body, according to the announcers.
Yeah.
Like, why did Sting even win?
Don't know.
But then I figured it out later. Steiner's going to win the title, and then Sting can challenge him
I see.
based on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was like a straight jacket on a pole match or something.
They were
stupid.
booking something insane like this.
Yeah.
So Alex is on the phone. He arrives. He tells Disco he has to defend the titles. He does not know who his partner is or who he's working. He approaches Chronic, whose tagline is, they're all about breaking necks and cashing checks.
Thank you.
Chronic tells him they will not take checks.
That is exactly what happened.
Yes.
Well, to be fair,
Okay.
I'm going to defend Chronic. Okay?
All right.
All right. So if you came up to me and you said, Brian, next Friday, I need you to beat Rob's ass. It's his birthday. I'll give you a check for $500. I'll say, okay. If you come up to me and say, it's Rob's birthday today, I need you to beat his ass, I'll give you a check for $500. How am I supposed to know your check is going to clear? See what I'm saying?
So they didn't trust his check.
Yes. They'll cash checks, but the check needs to clear before they do the deed.
Interesting.
This guy comes up, he wants him to do the deed tonight, and he's going to give him a check.
Plus, it could be in Deutschmarks.
They
That's
would
true.
be foolish.
I can only imagine what the exchange rate was like
Yeah.
in the year 2000.
Could have
so,
been. It could have been a thing.
Yeah. So then the
Yes, Rob?
By the way, I weren't sure if you were aware of this or not, but my birthday is actually coming up, and it just so happens I was hoping for an ass kicking this year.
Oh, see?
So.
I knew it. I did that on purpose.
At this point, the filthy animals walk up to Alex Wright. They throw garbage at him, and he turns around and walks away. I'm not making that up.
Speaking of cashing checks, do you know that one time I got a check from ECW Press for my book?
Oh.
And they're a Canadian company.
Okay.
And the bank wouldn't let me cash the check, even though the check said in U.S. funds. So it is possible they could have been skeptical of Alex Wright's check.
So Flair comes out for a promo, and he's putting over WCW in their world tour for World Championship Wrestling. Says Shivani did something in Europe he's not allowed to talk about. Now they're here in Georgia, a great show, great state, great fans.
I hope Tony's wife wasn't listening.
Then,
I have no idea what it was, but if my wife were listening and Flair came out and said that, I'd be in trouble.
Yeah. Then Flair says Mike Sanders has booked Booker T versus Lex Luger for the world title, and I couldn't change it if I wanted to.
Don't go for a walk, Vinny.
Time for a walk again.
Hey,
You came out last week, Mr. Flair, and you said Mike Sanders can book matches, but I can overrule him whenever I want. Mm-hmm. What happened in the last 7 days?
Vinny, what about the fact that he says I can't change the match, and then he changes the match?
I don't know. Why is this so hard?
I don't know.
It's bad enough that you have to have 1,000 heel authority figures. Can we at least have a consistency with who's actually in charge? And this is something WWE has done 1,000 times too. Just tell me who's in charge so I know what's the totem pole. So Jarrett interrupts. We get a 5-hour bit with Jeff Jarrett and Ric Flair where Jarrett says he knows who impregnated Stacy Keibler. I know who knocked up your future former daughter-in-law, he says. David Flair comes out, and Jarrett says I think he said he had a party going on when Stacy was knocking at his door in a teddy with a shopping bag. He took her in, kicked everyone else out of his party, laid down next to her. The rest is history, I think he said. I am the one who got Stacy pregnant. The next morning, she was gone. All she left behind was that shopping bag. And when I looked, that shopping...
How long have we been talking about this?
Half as long as he was.
The point of this is, after all that, he realizes it's bullshit. He says this is fake.
Yes.
It didn't really happen.
And then he hit David Flair with a guitar. What was the point of
I
this?
have no... you know what? I think they're going to do Flair and Jarrett, or they wanted to do Flair and Jarrett at Starrcade, so this was the beginning of it, but fucking Starrcade, what?
I don't know.
How about we get through the pay-per-view Sunday first?
Yes. Oh, yeah, did we mention this is the go-home show for Mayhem?
Yes.
That seems relevant.
And then Bagwell comes out.
Buff Bagwell runs
Jarrett.
out. He attacks Jarrett, who turns around and beats his ass.
Yeah, this sucks.
Because Buff's the worst babyface ever.
This sucked.
He comes back, Buff does. He goes to throw Jeff off the stage, and Jeff is like that guy getting chokeslammed by Eric Angle. Mm-hmm. He looks off the stage, he jumps down, he lands on his feet. Kevin Nash arrives. He bends over to look at some tape, and then stands back up. And I had to go the tape was on screen for 4 frames, but I was so curious I had to go look. All it does is it's just catering with an arrow going this way and sign in with an arrow going that way. For some reason, Kevin Nash, I guess he had to know where the sign-in sheet was. Fit Finlay is there. Nash tells Fit to tell the Thrillers that Nash is here and he's not alone.
They're trying so hard to make you think
Yes.
that he's going to show up with Scott Hall.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Scott Hall's going to be his partner. Can you imagine? I mean, yes, I can imagine.
All right, Pamela Paulshock interviews Team Canada. I had to watch this 5 times to understand what I thought the matches are going to be, and I'm still not sure I was right about it. So, as soon as she starts talking, Duggan in the background covers up his mouth and bugs his eyes out. I know at one point he was reprimanded for doing too much stuff in the background when Lance was talking. I'm wondering if this was his way of showing them up for telling him to shut up.
I see.
Doing this speak no evil pose. So Pamela says it's Elix Skipper and Hacksaw versus Kiwi and Meng. Elix then announces that Sanders has chosen him to team with Alex Wright. So he's busy, and Lance will take the place in his match. I thought, which one? Is he taking the place against with Alex, or taking the place of this match here with Duggan? I don't know. So Lance says Duggan will teach Meng some manners. He will give the Hicks from Augusta a wrestling lesson. Major Guns does her one line, and Pam calls her a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I'm pretty sure
Running out of steam here.
Lance drew the shortest straw on this match.
I don't even know. I can't keep track anymore.
Okay.
So it's Alex Wright and Elix Skipper versus Sean Stasiak and Chuck Palumbo. Scott Hudson says, everything on the show left me bewildered and confused and irritated. Scott Hudson says, nobody attacked Sean O'Hare. He's not buying it, but somebody did.
What?
That's what I did.
I wasn't paying attention.
And I rewound it 5 times trying to figure out what the hell he was talking about.
Let's cut to the chase. Alex has the win. Ray and Kidman interfere. Ray and the Filthy Animals interfere.
Yeah.
They hit the Kid Crusher. Perfect Event gets the pin.
Yeah.
Who are the baby faces?
Yeah.
Who are the heels?
Yeah.
Why are the Filthy Animals mad at Alex Wright?
I don't know. Maybe he didn't sell the garbage backstage big enough. I believe, to answer your question, Brian, in this show, they're all heels.
Okay.
I think. Jimmy Hart and 2 out of 3 count.
God, allow me. Jimmy Hart is backstage. He's been doing this deal where he challenges random radio DJs to fight, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they cut backstage, and Jimmy Hart starts to talk, and he's got 2 count behind him. And all of a sudden, Man-Cow rushes in, waffles everybody with a garbage can, and they set it up so 2 count would step in front of Jimmy, so the can would hit both of them, but they'd all fall down, so they didn't have to hit Jimmy Hart. They all fall down, and security rushes in to tear them apart. All right? Now, on the surface, just a goofy angle. But let's stop for a second. This Man-Cow flew to wherever they're at.
Augusta.
Georgia.
From Chicago.
He managed to somehow get backstage. He camped out, he hid, and he waited until Jimmy Hart was doing his interview, which apparently he knew he was going to do, so that he could just rush in and hit him with a trash can. I couldn't buy a second of this.
I can't believe how much time in your life you've dedicated to this stupid thing.
Because every now and then I think, if this were real, what?
Yeah.
And that's all I could think during this segment.
Weren't you led to believe that Man-Cow bought time on Nitro for this?
It did say this portion paid for by Man-Cow or
Right.
something like that. Yeah.
Not to mention, they're already wrestling on Sunday.
Yeah.
Why did this asshole fly all the way to the building, hide backstage, get a garbage can, wait for Jimmy Hart to do his deal, and then waffle him with 1 trash can?
You'd have to ask Man-Cow.
He couldn't just wait till Sunday.
Pamela Paulshock interviews Kwee and Meng.
Oh my God. All you need to know about this segment, this is the only notable thing. Meng speaks English. Now, the funny thing is, Meng spoke English like 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. So, like, we've seen it. But Tony Schiavone is, like, so burnt out of this that even though he calls every one of these shows, he can't remember that Meng has spoken English before. So Meng starts to cut a promo in English, and Tony is so flabbergasted that he says, "Oh my God, can you believe what we're hearing? He's talking over Meng speaking English." He's so shocked. Meng vows to straighten Hacksaw's crooked eye because they're doing a tag match tonight.
He's gonna rip out the cross eye, straighten it permanently. Kwee, by the way, says Primetime has been ducking him. This will make him angry, so he's backing out of this match and putting General Erection in.
Huh?
God forbid he get mad.
Elix just wrestled.
That's what Kwee said. All I know is they hyped some matches and then kept changing them over and over again. I had no idea what was ever going on this show.
And for some reason, Kwee faces Sanders for the Cruiserweight title at Mayhem.
Yeah.
All right, whatever. It's like every Survivor Series match. I
Okay.
just don't know why they're happening.
Speaking of which, Mike Sanders is back on TV. That's appearance number 2. Sanders and Jindrak are doing a promo. It's awful. The worst comedy. That's not comedy. It's so bad that in the middle of it, Tony Schiavone has to mutter, Mike Sanders talking about a match with Queeby at Mayhem. Because no one knew what the hell he was talking about.
They did have to explain what was going on.
Then we see Reno. Reno speaks. There's a reason he doesn't speak very often. As Reno's congratulating Palumbo on winning the tag belts, and he goes to get his bag, Vito jumps Reno with a bat, lays him out, and says, Marie says hello. And Mark Madden says, who the hell's Marie? And Tony Schiavone says, that's Vito's sister.
Yeah, she was on one show for
Yes.
one instant.
If you go back and watch this, Vito's bat clearly bending before it actually makes contact with Vito's head.
Magic.
Yeah.
Here I wrote, I hate the show. The Battle Dome dudes are at ringside. This is Pamela Paulshock's question for Alex Wright.
You do that, then I'm going to answer.
Alex Wright, not only did the Filthy Animals cost you the match against the perfect event, but you also lost the tag team titles.
Yes.
That's her question.
So Alex Wright explains.
To rub salt in the wound.
He is upset that he got dropped and WCW didn't do anything about it. Nobody cares about me, he says. WCW is scared about the Boogie Nights.
Yes.
I talked to Disco on the phone. Disco is mad.
Really mad.
He's really mad. And since WCW won't do anything about this, these dildos will get their revenge. I want the Filthy Animals in a handicap match at Mayhem.
You're paraphrasing there.
So in a handicap match, he's talking him and Disco against all the Filthy Animals or him alone?
I assume.
Anyway, point was, he came off as such a babyface here. He's been totally screwed. He's pissed off about it. He rightly points out that nobody else is doing anything about it. So he wants to fight all these guys by himself. I think he's supposed to be a heel.
We have more shouting with the Battle Dome guys, and out comes Rick Steiner.
Oh, this actually was great.
Yes.
Rick has the Battle Dome belt. I didn't even know there was a Battle Dome belt. He explains, I went to L.A. I walked out right in the middle of your show. I took your belt, and there wasn't a damn thing you could do about it. If you want some, come get. This was like the best Rick Steiner promo. Remember we were talking about how I wouldn't have put the title on Rick Steiner in 1988?
Yeah.
I'd have put the title on that Rick Steiner.
In the year 2000.
This badass T-Money hits the ring. Rick Steiner beats the shit out of him.
I'm watching Rick Steiner fight Terry Crews. Yes.
The other guys hit
blows
the
my
ring.
mind.
They beat up him. They leave him laying. This was a great angle.
Who got bloody? Did you see Steiner's hand was bleeding?
I'm pretty sure
Oh, he
he
punched
punched Terry
somebody's
Crews
face.
right in the nose.
Okay. Well,
So, now before all this, Brian, as Rick Steiner's making his way to the ring with the Battle Dome belt over his shoulder, Mark Madden says, and here again, I had to rewind 5 times and quote it all, to make sure that I know what's going on. If Luger beats Booker for the title, Goldberg gets a title shot at Mayhem. If Goldberg wins the title, then he's the champ, he calls the shots, and he doesn't have to worry about his winning streak broken to maintain that point.
They totally blew off the streak.
So it seems to be Goldberg would want Luger to win tonight.
Yes.
So to recap, it's Luger Booker tonight to set up Luger versus Goldberg and Steiner versus Booker at the pay-per-view. But those matches are going to happen no matter who is champion. So Steiner has to make sure Booker walks out of this building as champion if he wants his title shot. It's all very confusing.
my head
Yes.
hurts.
That's my point. The show...
My point was that they spent so much time building up the Goldberg streak.
Yeah.
Badly, I might add. And they're still doing it on this show. And Flair has flat out said, I don't give a shit about this streak. I'm just going to give you a championship match.
That happens. Yes, and somewhere in here, Scott Hudson referred to the Battle Dome crew as pseudo-shooters. Sean Stasiak is ordering a pizza when Reno demands a match with Vito. Sanders vows to take care of it, and then it's not enough that Sanders, appearance number 3, pardon me. It's not enough that we have to hear the stupid SOL thing every single time they're on TV. Now they must also say "set it off" 500 times. I'm leaning towards the Natural Born Thrillers being the worst faction of all time. I hate them.
Aces and eights.
I didn't have to deal with SOL.
Dude, the Forgotten Sons.
Better. I would rather watch the Forgotten Sons at this
Dude.
point.
The Forgotten Sons were on Raw last night. I don't think any of the announcers had any idea who they were. I don't think their names were mentioned
The Forgotten Sons are merely neutral in every single way. The Natural Born Thrillers outright irritate me.
They are irritating.
A clear negative.
That's for sure.
Hugh G. Rection gives his men a pep talk, tries to get them fired up, and they all agree to take no prisoners. Kevin Nash does a promo. He has 13 months and 10 days left on his contract. He's going to do nothing over that time but have the time of his life. He drove here from Atlanta with a good friend of his. Tells Sanders to bring his jacked up greenhorns out. He and his partner want a shot of the belts. Mike Sanders, number 4, agrees. Says Kevin Nash is not popular backstage. Kevin Nash says, Chief J. Strongbow once told me. It's the year 2000. Chief J. Strongbow is getting name dropped. You can make friends in this business or you can make money, and I made money.
So, hold on a second. So they're going back and forth, and Nash says, I've got a partner. And Sanders says, nobody likes you. And Nash's comeback is, I can make friends or make money, and I make money?
Yeah.
Right.
His comeback is, you're right, nobody likes me.
And then he brought out his friend.
And then
Well,
DDP
not yet.
comes out.
There's more.
Sorry.
Sanders insults the fans. Kevin Nash makes fun of him for using cheap heat. Sanders says, what? I didn't hear you. And Nash is like, you're using cheap heat. This is a death promo. So finally Nash says, you guys think you can fight with me when you can't even hang with me in the bar.
The fuck does one thing have to do with the other?
I don't know, but for some reason Mike Sanders was furious. And he sprints down the aisle. And Tony Schiavone says, that upset Sanders?
This show's so bad.
It's a horrible
I apologize for what I said at the beginning of this show. This show sucks.
Horrible show. So DDP hits the ring. It's 2 men beating up 5, and it's not even like DDP's doing diamond cutters left and right. They're just doing moves and beating them all up, and finally Jindrak, I think, is left alone and eats one.
Mm-hmm. You know, I got to give him credit. I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I got to give him credit. They told you who the partner was on this show.
Sure.
I fully expected for them to tease that it was Scott Hall all the way to the pay-per-view
Sure.
to make you plop down your money, and only then, after they got your money, reveal it's actually DDP.
It would have made perfect sense.
I have to give them credit for telling you who actually was going to be on the show and not being assholes.
We then get a recap of Major Guns turning on MIA. Now, I could go back over these one by one.
Please don't.
I will just tell you, this was the 12th consecutive non-wrestling segment on this show. Then, Lance comes out for his match, but before the match, he cuts a promo. And if you want to count that as a 13th segment, I won't argue. We get the match. If you have forgotten, and I could not blame you for forgetting, it's Lance Storm and Hacksaw Duggan versus Huge Erection and Meng. Scott Hudson referred to Major Guns as Queen of the Caribou Hoof, which I can't believe you can say on TV.
It's like Moose Knuckle, Rob.
So Lance buries the U.S. for needing 2 weeks to do an election. It's just counting, he says. Ming comes out. Tony Schiavone says, I still can't believe he said this. This is Meng. He will eat. I can't say it. This is Meng. He will eat you now. He will eat you now, is what he said.
Yeah.
This show's so dumb.
He's finally been broken. Finally. That was what did it. You're so lucky you're not watching wrestling today.
This is Meng. He will eat you now. Eat you.
Yeah. Well, he will.
So,
Yes, Rob.
Am I the only one noticing that his face is almost the same color as his shirt right now?
He looks like Brock wrestling.
so they're doing this match, and Tony begins to do like fantasy booking. He tells a story about how Lance brought Meng back. Meng disappointed him, so Lance turned on him, which is something you don't want to do. When did any of this happen?
He made it up.
He made this.
I mean,
is
it could happen on Thunder.
Tony Schiavone made up in his mind.
There
to
are
make the
some
booking
dumb
make sense.
stories that took place on Thunder, Vinny.
Someone had the bright idea in this match to make Meng the Meng in peril.
Oh, yeah, he was selling. Meng!
Meng. Huge Erection gets the coldest hot tag ever. Somebody hits somebody with a flagpole. MIA is out there brawling with Team Canada, and Erection pins Duggan with a schoolboy. A wretched match.
I thought he pinned Neelix. Who cares?
Doesn't matter. This wasn't in the match.
Yeah, so he pinned... Oh, yeah. Who cares? When I review this show, Vinny, I thought nothing of the fact that he might have pinned a man who wasn't in the match.
That's true. That's true. Shane Douglas and Jeff Jarrett are having a chat backstage. Mike Sanders, number 5, joins the announce desk.
Is he in every fucking segment? I wrote in all caps.
So, I know it was a tasteless joke, but was he, like, knocked out cold in that brawl with DDP? Because he's out there and he's terrible. Mike Sanders, how do you have this tag match now? You got to face Kevin Nash and DDP. I don't want to talk about it.
I just don't want to talk about it.
Do you want to talk about anything else?
No.
Do you have a point? What was he out there for?
Let's talk about what was good.
Now, I don't know what he's out there for. So, he does eventually say they've got a young hotshot coming out, and he's got something in store for this young hotshot, and then out comes Kwee Wee. Record scratch. I have been waiting for this moment for a while for this match. Now, I was worried in my mind this may have happened on Thunder.
No.
And I think the reason I thought that is because some point in the past month or two, Nitro switched to blue ropes. So when I saw the blue ropes, I think I associated that with Thunder. But when Kwee Wee came out, and Commissioner Mike Sanders was mad at Kwee Wee, and we didn't know what Kwee Wee was doing out here, there was a mystery opponent, I thought, oh my God. This may be it. This may be the key, the moment in WCW in 2000. And then Bill Goldberg's music hit. Whatever the opposite of taking a walk is, I guess it's sitting there in rapt attention.
You buckled up.
I did. I buckle up, yes. Bill Goldberg versus Kwee Wee. It's etched in my brain, so I knew everything that happened. When it happened live in the year 2000, I have not for 1 second forgotten a single frame of this match. Bill Goldberg comes out. He's spitting, snarling. Kwee Wee knows he's got one shot, is to catch this guy off guard. So as Goldberg begins to get...
May I add that Goldberg's thinking about all that fucking glitter that was on him last week on Thunder.
I hadn't thought of that.
No glitter this week.
No, or ever again, I'm sure. As Goldberg gets in the apron, Kwee Wee jumps him. He does like 2 or 3 elbows. And then Goldberg kind of like slips through the ropes. Kwee Wee runs to hit the other ropes and do a springboard. And he had some spot where he did this. It was into a kick or a dive or whatever. Yeah. He runs across the ropes, does a springboard, and bounces back and spins him around in midair. As he is doing this, Bill Goldberg climbs into the ring, preps every muscle in his body, from the smallest toes to the top of his head, and he dashes forward, and he cuts Kwee Wee in half with a spear. The most brutal, awesome thing. Kwee Wee's in midair coming down, and then he's going back up because he's been hit so damn hard. The referee jumps high in the air. All the fans throw their hands in the air. Kwee Wee's head goes spinning off into the crowd. And then as Goldberg gets up, he's snarling, spitting, stomping, fire's breathing out his nose. I watched this over and over and over, and then I made a GIF of it, and I just watched that GIF for like 5 minutes. It's the most beautiful thing. I was weeping tears of joy.
If Kwee Wee had been wearing glitter,
yes,
there would have been a glitter silhouette.
It would have looked like the Death Star blowing up. That would have been even better. Kind of sad, actually.
So, for what it's worth, he jackhammers him and pins him.
Tony Schiavone is going even crazier than you are because Goldberg speared him out of his boots. His boots literally go flying.
That's the Sanders spot.
That's
to come.
Yeah.
That's next, yes.
Now, for mathematical record-keeping purposes, I want it down. Kwee Wee versus Goldberg on the November 20th episode of Nitro in the year 2000. 8 stars. So then, Goldberg goes to Sanders, who is at the announce desk, and Goldberg tells him, I fight my battles, I don't fight yours. And he starts to leave, but out comes Ric Flair, who stops Goldberg from leaving and says, come this way, franchise. Must have pissed off Shane some of the fears. So Flair says, Mike Sanders has a problem being a commissioner and a wrestler at the same time. We all know you put Kwee Wee in the ring with Goldberg to soften him up for your match with Kwee Wee at Mayhem on Sunday. Well, we're going to do things fair. we're going to make everything equal. Mike Sanders, you are a wrestler, and you are next. Goldberg's very happy about this. He grabs Mike Sanders. He throws him into the ring. Hits him with a pump handle slam, so you know he means business. The greatest finisher in all of wrestling. And then the spear and jackhammer are overkill at this point. And here, Tony was so happy about Sanders getting speared out of his shoes. It's a cliche, and it happened. Goldberg won, if you didn't know that yet. Mm-hmm. Here is Pamela Paulshock's question for Booker T. WCW champion Booker T. Lex Luger went to both Mike Sanders and Ric Flair and pulled it off. A match with you tonight. Now, do you think Goldberg will get involved?
Great question.
I suppose. Maybe it's just her delivery, or maybe it's the way she addressed him as WCW champion Booker T.
Well, she needs to tell the viewers who he is, what he is. Asked a decent question. Way better than we get today.
That's fair. So, last week, Booker hit somebody with a chair. I think it was Sting. Anyone?
I don't know.
Bueller? Bueller?
Probably.
I was
Sting always
expecting
gets beat up.
an explanation for why or what.
Oh, yeah, at the end of the show.
Yes.
No, nothing.
Nothing at all.
Well, it could have been on Thunder. But I mean, we should be filled in.
A little bit of follow-up.
We should have been filled in.
Booker doesn't care about 4% body fat, whether it's Goldberg or Steiner or Luger. He warns Goldberg not to get involved. And don't hate the player, hate the damn game.
All right, let me take over here. Because aside from Goldberg killing Kiwi, what follows is, honest to God, my favorite thing on this show. Shane Douglas and Tori Wilson come out. And first, they just do this cheap heat promo for like an hour, calling the people inbreds, the whole 9 yards. Then we get Shane Douglas versus Buff Bagwell. I'm sure you both fell asleep. For whatever reason, I watched this match, and it actually was a really good match. It was a very simple story, which is that Buff Bagwell broke his neck and came back. And so Shane Douglas worked over his bad neck. And he worked over his neck, and he put him in neck holds. Unlike today in WWE where, someone has a bad leg, so someone puts him in a fucking chin lock. He worked over his bad neck. Buff Bagwell made a big comeback. Tori interfered to set up the heat. Then she tried to interfere again at the end, but Buff thwarted it the second time. The heels run into each other. Buff hits a DDT. Buff goes up top for the blockbuster. Jarrett runs down to stop him, but Shat makes the save. Buff then hits the blockbuster and pins Shane Douglas. It was a totally simple babyface versus heel match. The psychology made sense. The fans were into it. There was a logical conclusion. There was a clean pin. This was like the best thing on the show, except for Jamie Noble. That was like a better athletic match.
And Goldberg.
But I said besides Goldberg,
okay.
You idiot.
Got it.
But I mean, the Jamie Noble match was just like two guys doing a lot of great moves. It's not like there was a story to it or anything. It's like one guy used to be Asian, now he's white. He's facing his former partner. They do a bunch of moves. One guy wins, and he looked good doing it. This was like a pro wrestling match. This was this show's version of Chris Benoit versus Steve Austin. Not nearly as good, but you know what? I just want to see a goddamn pro wrestling match. And that's what this was. With a satisfying finish that made the fans happy. I liked this.
Okay, that all happened. I won't say I fell asleep, but I did not like it nearly as much as you did. And I thought the finish had way too much stuff going on. My favorite part of this is Shane Douglas has Buff Bagwell down in a neck vice. And Buff powers him up into what they now call the electric chair position, where Shane's sitting on Buff's shoulders. And Buff just falls back, and Shane falls on his back. And something went wrong. It looked okay. But next thing I know, Shane is saying something. The ref bends over to hear what Shane is saying. And Buff Bagwell from his back loudly shouts, "I'm sorry!"
Probably hit him in the nuts.
Oh, that may have been it. Mm-hmm. That makes more sense. But yes, Buff won. So then the cat calls out Shane, also insults Mark Madden, and then just has a dance party. Scott Steiner comes out for a promo. He pretends to cry, says he'd like to say he's sorry if he was, but he warned Sting he was going to hurt him. Says Flair is an old son of a bitch, still trying to screw him out of a world title. He gave Goldberg the worst defeat of his career. Goldberg don't want no more of me. And he says, a Starcade, I will say, Vinny, Vidi, Vucci. And then, after mispronouncing the Latin, says that is not in Booker T's Ebonics handbook.
He buried Sting, he buried Goldberg, he buried Booker, he dropped an Ebonics line, he lost his train of thought, he couldn't remember the name of the next pay-per-view, and he lost the crowd.
All of which happened.
Okay.
A
Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
A bad Steiner promo.
Terrible.
So at this point, I will
I think
say
he
this.
wins the title on Sunday.
This was a terrible promo, but I will say this. He did get across in the last 10 minutes of the show that the Booker T. Scott Steiner championship match at the pay-per-view is also in a cage, which I did not know until he said.
Dude, all I know is he talked for like an hour, and I'm just thinking, get the fucking hook for this guy. He just keeps going on and on and on and on.
You get the hook of Scott Steiner.
And then he just goes to do commentary.
Yes. So the main event is Booker T versus the late 2000 Lex Luger, who could
Horrible.
barely move.
Horrible.
You know what drives me crazy about the network? You can see how much time is left on the clock.
It's dragged
And
so slowly.
When it says that there's 4 minutes left and they're doing ring intros, you're like, okay, it's going to be a screw job finish.
Dude, when it's Booker
you want Luger to
versus
wrestle
Lex
more?
Luger and
I'm
there was
just-
4 minutes left,
I'm
I was
just-
like, thank God. Thank God, get this shit
Thank
over
you
with.
for crapping on my point. My point is you knew what was going to happen.
And I was happy about it.
Thank God.
This is not a bug, Craig. This is a feature. So they have a god-awful match.
Horrible.
Just wretched.
Luger
4
looked
minutes.
100.
Somewhere in here, Goldberg comes out, but before he can do anything, he's problem with Steiner. Something happened to Booker. We didn't even know. Lex gets a chair. He's behind Booker. Goldberg goes to throw a spear, maybe a Booker. We don't know, but Booker dodges and Lex gets speared. And then Booker T, the worst champion I've ever seen, gets the pin by doing nothing.
Hey, at least he got the pin.
I suppose that's true, but he never beats anybody. He never, ever hits his move and wins.
Did you see the kick that missed Luger by 2 feet and he still took a bump for it?
I would say he took a bump. I'm not sure how to describe. He went from his feet to his back,
Okay.
but there was a gentle rolling motion.
Man, this was not good.
No. Everyone, this is, for the most part, a horrible episode of Nitro. But you know what? I'm giving that show a thumbs up merely for the Goldberg segment.
Oh, God.
This made the rest of the 2 hours worth it.
I would say that between Jamie Noble and Jimmy Wang Yang and Rick Steiner's promo and the Shane Buff match that was basic, but I liked it, and Goldberg and Kiwi, I mean, that's why I thought this was a better show. But everything else really sucked.
The bad stuff was awful. I should have timestamped the Goldberg stuff. It's roughly 2/3 of the way through the show. For those of you
People
looking
can
for it.
find it. Not that hard. All right, ready?
I am ready when you are, sir. The finishes on this show were pin after a lot of interference and or distraction from a lot of people. Pin after interference. Pin after distraction. Clean pin in the most Goldbergian match that ever Goldberged. Clean pin in a slightly less Goldbergian match. Pin after distraction and interference fail. And pin in a terrible match after copious interference.
Man, we got through both of those quick there.
Well, there were
this
only like
week.
4 matches on Nitro, so.
All right, everybody, I'm going to wrap it up here for today. Vinny and I will be back on Thursday.
Well,
Oh,
I'll be